Hi, I'm Sibben and I'm the founder of Sybotanica. Here at Sybotanica we specialize in plants, terrariums and soil. Come with me and I'll show you around. Hello! Today I'm going to show you how you're going to build your own self-sustaining terrarium. We have all the materials laid out here which we're going to use to build your own. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, doesn't matter. I'm going to show you the basic steps and going to share some expert tips I've learned over the years. So what is a terrarium? That's a great question. A terrarium is completely self-sustaining. The water from the bottom evaporates up onto the glass, after which it falls down onto the plants and the roots. This means that it has no care needed. After you've set it up properly, you could just leave it be and it will stay green forever. To get started, it's best to organize all your stuff nicely. This way we're going to have all the focus we need when we're going to start actually building the terrarium. So first off, we have the layers. These are going to be used to create the base layers of the terrarium. We have these available in kits where the amounts are perfectly adjusted for terrariums on the website. So here we have the beautiful plants. Today we picked some nice specimens to build your terrarium. I would recommend getting as many plants as you can and looking around and seeing what the best combi might be. Here we have some beautiful cashew moss. Cashew moss is great for a terrarium because it's already in one clump. This way you can create nice mountains in your terrarium. We also have sheet moss, as you can see here. Sheet moss is also a great alternative. So over here we have some of our decorations. For example, we have this wood, we have some stones, and we have our own branded bags of soil and different components you can use for your terrarium. They can all be found on the website. The last thing we need to start building: a beautiful glass. Okay, to start off, we're gonna start with the soil layers, as previously discussed. Okay, you take the lid off, and then first come the clay balls. The reason we put in these clay balls is to create a drainage layer. The goal of this layer is to have the water sitting at the bottom and not touching the soil of the plants and the terrarium, because then it would cause rot and other nasty issues. So to start off, you can use either your hand or you could use one of our handy spatula tools. Make sure to create a flat, even layer, and after that we can go on to the next part. Now comes a layer of sphagnum moss. The reason we put in sphagnum moss is to create a barrier between the clay balls and the soil. Otherwise the soil would start slowly falling through the clay balls and that would cause issues later down the line. It's best to hydrate it a bit first. For water, I recommend using either tap water that's been left out for about 24 hours or some distilled water you can buy at the grocery market. Okay, so we're just gonna place the sphagnum in. The amount doesn't really matter too much as long as the soil won't be able to fall through. Next on is the carbon. So we have pellets here, activated carbon pellets. What this does is basically it filters out all the nasty chemicals that are in the water that might come into the plants later. Basically they help keep your terrarium clean and healthy. So you should just sprinkle some in. With the kits we sell at Sybotanica, it's best to add the whole bag that you get. About this much is perfect. Now we're onto the soil layer. So for the soil we're going to use some terrarium substrate mix that we also have over here. It's also available on the website and it is in all the kits that we sell. So you want to wet the soil first. A great way to do that is to use either a sprayer or just a bottle of water. And you're just gonna keep spraying the water, getting nice into it, and you're gonna keep going until it's basically sticking together. As you can see, it's quite wet, and when you squeeze it, it's sticking together and not falling apart immediately. So we're gonna start putting the soil in. And now is a great time to think about how you want your terrarium to look. Maybe you want it to go up, maybe you want a big bump in the middle. It's all up to you basically. This is quite a large terrarium, we're gonna add some more soil. And this is basically just experimenting with what works well and what doesn't. You gotta keep in mind that when placing the plants and moss and stuff on top, it's gonna get quite a bit higher. So you don't wanna go too high just yet. What's also great to keep in mind is thinking about the plants that you're gonna use. So let's say we're going to use a small plant like this. You obviously wouldn't need as much soil in there as with a larger plant like this. You should look at the roots and see how far they should be able to go down. Okay, so next on is decorating your terrarium. This is where the fun comes in. I would recommend to start with your largest pieces of wood and rocks, as these will define the way your terrarium will look. It's also totally fine to use just plants. In that case, you can skip the video and go to the part where we show the plants. So today I have some really nice pieces of spider wood. I think this is going to be the main centerpiece in our terrarium. So now that we have our wood in place, it's time to add some rocks. So we have many different types of rocks, but it's also possible to go outside and collect your own. Do be warned that there might be pests on it. So to prevent that, you could either put it in the oven or boil it. When boiling it, you should be careful, as there might sometimes be air trapped in the rocks, and boiling it might cause it to explode. So to prevent that from happening, always research the type of rock that you're going to use. So now it's time for plants. For plants, I always like to look at the colors of plants. Personally, I really like to pick either one or two colors and use those throughout the terrarium. This will create one even and nice scape. Not all plants are suited for terrariums. To know which plants are suited well, you could either Google it, or you could go to our website where we have a list of all the plants that are suitable for terrariums. Remember to experiment as well. You can always remove any plants if they're not doing too well. So now we've come up with a selection of plants. To place your plants in the terrarium, you first have to remove the pot and any of the soil that is still in there. So to do this, it's best to roll it around in your fingers until it comes loose. And then you can just pull the pot off. Make sure to remove all the soil that is around the plants. roots, as these can sometimes contain fertilizers from the nurseries. These fertilizers could be harmful for your terrarium. Now, to place the plants, we're going to use some tweezers. You could also just use your fingers if that's what you have, but we have these tweezers available at the website as well. So we're going to start off with making a small hole. This is basically a pocket for where the roots of the plants are going to be seen. So another great tip is to first place your plants with the pot in the terrarium. This way you can get a feel for where you want your plants to be and you can easily move around. So I think we're going to place these cryptanthus down here. The syngonium, this is the syngonium neon, is going to be up here. And lastly we have pink Fittonia, and it's going to be in little specks all around the terrarium. Yeah, so the most important part is to just have fun, look around with what you can do, where you want to place it. And remember that there's no right or wrong, it's all what you personally prefer. So what's also important to note is that the larger your terrarium, basically the easier it is for a beginner. As the more space you have, the more room you have to play around. But that isn't to say that you can't make great things with a small terrarium as well. Later on I will show you some smaller ones that also look great and are really easy to make. So now comes the moss. So we have two basic types of moss. So as you can see, we have cushion moss, which is one pretty big piece, and we have sheet moss, which is quite flat, hence the name sheet moss. So for this terrarium we're going to use a combination of the two, but it really just comes down to what you prefer. You can rip the sheet moss and also the cushion moss up into pieces to create perfect amounts for the space of your terrarium. So for moss, what I like to do is fill it up completely with moss. This way you will have a nice even scape and you won't see the substrate below. But it's totally fine to use smaller pieces as moss as well and maybe fill it in with some of the wood or the decorations. Now, one piece of warning, this moss is harvested from a local pesticide-free forest. This means that sometimes it includes little critters. But do not worry, these will actually help you with keeping the terrarium an ecosystem, as the small animals can eat the decaying plant matter and they will create plant food out of it. So one of the amazing benefits of a terrarium is that after you've set it up properly, which you will with this video, there's no care involved. So once you've created it, it's basically a piece you can look at. You can make little tweaks later on, but there's not much you have to do. Another great thing is that if you have cats or dogs, these are completely safe. The cats obviously can't get in the terrarium. The next step is totally optional, but I actually always do it. And there's one big reason for that, and that is mold. So mold is probably the biggest issue that you might encounter. A little bit of mold is expected and normal. It will usually look like gray or white hairs that will grow on maybe the wood or the plants or the moss. This should go away over time though, because of the carbon that we added earlier at the bottom. So this might scare some people, but we're gonna add little insects. So these are springtails. So springtails are little creatures that can live in your terrarium, and they basically complete the natural cycle. So what they do is they use oxygen that plants create, they eat decaying plant matter, wood and other nasty stuff like mold. So adding springtails will really help with combating the mold that you might encounter. It might seem scary, but they actually can only live in very humid environments, so even if they would escape, they probably wouldn't go very far. So when you order them at Sybotanica, you get them in a nice little container like this, on lampwood charcoal. And to place them in, you could do two things. You could, at the beginning, place them in the soil, or what I like to do is you just stick some on the glass and they will fall right in. Now that we've added everything in, there's only a few things left. So we're gonna clean it up. A microfiber cloth works best at making your terrarium pristine. For smaller terrariums, it's probably best to use some tweezers to get in there. You can even use some toilet paper just to get the water off the edges. But because this terrarium is so large, you can just put your hand. The last step, we're gonna close it up. So now that we've closed it up, there's actually only one thing left, and that is the placement of your terrarium. So there are a few things to consider when placing your terrarium. So when the light shines on there, direct sunlight, the terrarium will actually heat up. And this can be okay for maybe like 30 minutes, but if it's any longer than that, you have a big chance of the whole thing cooking up inside. That's obviously not what you want. So the best spot is probably a window that doesn't get any direct sunlight, but gets bright light every day, because obviously the plants still need light to thrive. You could also use a coffee table, or basically just experiment. If you see the leaves of the plant reaching for the light, you should probably place it a little bit closer. But if you see that you maybe have some yellowing spots or the moss is turning a bit yellow, then it's probably a better idea to place it in a little bit less bright spot. It's amazing, we've built our own terrarium. So if you want to do it as well, you can go to our website. We have many resources available to help you out. Should you have any other questions, we are always available to help you. Either me or someone of the team will come out and help you with any questions you might have.